Two questions for Honorable Masuka. The first one comes from Lato Nyambu, then the second one from Wallace Lusitsu, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the two journalists. Let's start with the easier of the two. Who's the guest of honor for the 116th version of the Zimbabwe Agricultural Show. The President of the Republic of Namibia is graciously agreed to be the guest of honor on Friday. So invite all of you. Then the second one relates to consumption patterns and supply. Well, we indicated the likely harvest as measured by Zimstat, but also is assessed by the ministry. Currently, Zimstat is doing an assessment of what we call the post-harvest survey, which we started last week, which will inform post-harvest losses and actually say what is available for consumption for the household strategic grain reserve and also for sale to the various off-takers. But we may indicate that in terms of progress, the total sales of all crops marketed to either the GMB or private off-takers, there's an 87%, 87.6% increase in the marketed crops compared to last year. It's just over 515,000 metric tons compared to 274,000 last year. We expect the marketing season to begin to taper off. Ordinarily, we say by the 31st of August, the teams now are meeting with the stakeholders, principally farmers, representatives, farmers unions, to ascertain how much more marketed grain is available. The consumption patterns are determined by Zimstat when they do the surveys. The last one was done in 2017, 2019, and we expect results from another consumption survey this year. That consumption survey puts us at, although we plan as a ministry, at 10 kgs per person per month, which will give us 120 kgs per year, the actual consumption in Zimbabwe is 7.5 kgs per person per month, which is the 92 kgs per person per year. And those are the scenarios. That is why we provide a range of the expected surplus indicating various consumption scenarios. And then the question is if consumption increases, consumption of staple cereals is actually going down. The 15% of Zimbabweans now consider rice and Irish potato as their basic starch source. So, although we use the full population to calculate at planning level what our cereal requirement is, we know from the survey that increasingly the youth and working ladies prefer to parboil rice, to do Irish potato, ahead of doing traditional grains or even maize meal. And that's the trend, and we must continue to cater for that. Maybe we just do a commentary. Yes, we are self-sufficient in terms of Irish potato, commercial table Irish potato production and consumption, but we do have a massive gap in terms of rice consumption. We only produce about 3,000 metric tons against our requirement of between 250,000 to 280,000 metric tons annually. So yes, we continue to monitor consumption, we continue to monitor supply, especially in the context of the predicted El Nino in 2026, 2027. But I previously indicated the government has a very robust plan to ensure that we counter this, and people must take comfort and satisfaction in the leadership of His Excellency the President, who led us in 2024 during a most difficult year. And we've come up with 6 pillars. One of the main ones, which is the first pillar, is an enhanced strategic grain reserve, where we aim to exit the year at about 450,000 metric tons, and we're still on course to achieving that, and that will have sufficient to feed the rural population through a strategic intervention through the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, Social Development Department. And also there would be an opportunity under our Pillar 5 for the private sector to see business in our hunger, but not to profiteer from our hunger, by availing them an opportunity to import additional maize to be able to supply commercial milling requirements, but also to supply the feed requirements. And we will be presenting periodic updates on this expected El Nino once the Ministry of Environment has completed its activity. So I think that's a fairly comprehensive answer, not entirely related to consumption and supply, but with an eye on the expected El Nino. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next question goes to Honorable Kambamura from Stanley James. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The 2026 mining shop, which was held in Bulawayo, from 29th to the 31st of July, was actually a success. One of the symposium was the beneficiation symposium, where we called all players together, the miners together, those own mines, the own beneficiation plants, and those we tended to the scholars, so that we can share ideas, brainstorm, and agree on the way forward. It was also a moment where we clarified government's policy on the ban on export of raw minerals and the transitional measures that government put in place is company move towards full beneficiation of their minerals. The event was well attended, and we got ideas from the academia, we got ideas from the industry, which we are going to be implementing to frame up our beneficiary policies. Also in display with strategies that companies are making in line with government's call for local beneficiary and validation. Core companies like Wami Colliery, they displayed the strategy that they've made to come up with a core oven battery that was down for a number of years. The lithium subsector also made some displays of strategies that they are making towards beneficiation of lithium, cutting and polishing for gemstones. All these were in display. So generally, the industry is taking up government's call for local beneficiation, and with time, like I've said, to clarify government policy with regard to local validation and beneficiation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, for responding to those questions. Let's move to the last round of 3 questions. Yes.
Thank you, Chief. I'm Richmond Siaburi, Radio Zimbabwe. Mine is directed to Honorable Dr. Antias Masuka. Congratulations, Honorable, now that GMB have paid off the farmers for their deliveries. Now my question is, what precautionary measures have you put in place to ensure that farmers are timelessly paid in future deliveries to GMB? I thank you.
Yes. No questions. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Honorable Masuka, you have a question from Richmond Siaburi. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. We must protest that questions are not coming fast enough. Endeavor us to pay farmers as soon as possible after delivery, noting that, of course, the farmers have obligations that they will have carried throughout the whole season. We will be aware that if we are paying farmers for marketed crops this August, this crop was grown from last year, and the fertilizer was most likely purchased last August. So timeliest payment is what the government wants to do. However, because of competing resource requirements, it is not always possible to pay farmers as they deliver. And we continue to engage farmers on a weekly basis through our crops working group meetings every Thursday. For that understanding between farmers and government is to be appreciated. And let me take this moment to commend farmers for this very strong delivery of grain to the GMD, which is 126% above last year. Going forward, government hopes that with the increasing fiscal space, because of the increased economic activity and the growing economy, you saw last year we grew by a stellar 8.3%, and like this year we are projected to grow by a conservative 5%. It means that there probably will be more resources to be able to pay farmers. So I continue to encourage farmers that government is committed and is going to mobilize resources to enable that, enable timeliest payment. But we are also becoming innovative within government. There is what we are calling a crop purchase buffer fund, which has been mooted by government, and its establishment through the Agricultural Finance Corporation has largely been agreed in terms of the framework, where some of the land that was identified in urban areas has been given to the AFC to bring into value addition, as in ensuring that the basic infrastructure is put in place, and as they dispose of that land, a proportion of the proceeds from that sale goes into an escrow account, which will be ring-fenced for purposes of timeliest payment of farmers. We also have the Warehouse Receipt Act, where farmers can deliver to the GMB the various depots, including the AI-powered silos, and they get a warehouse receipt. Which warehouse receipt we are now negotiating with financial institutions that this asset called maize, now represented by the warehouse receipt, the farmer can actually borrow on the basis of that without even receiving payments upfront. We are working with ZESA, ZINWA, to say that if farmers are not paid on time, occasionally that happens, they are able to just instruct GMB that their electricity can be bought from the grain that they actually have supplied to the GMB. Their water bill can equally be paid, and that is what we are looking at in order to ease the cash flow burdens. You will be aware that we also have statutory instrument 87 of 2025, which introduces an import parity pricing and production parity pricing, and the difference is accrued to the fiscus and has been deployed for accelerated irrigation scheme development, and also for the payment of farmers. So government is doing everything in its powers to mobilize additional resources, but also to create additional revenue streams to ensure that farmers are paid on time. Thank you.
Let me thank members of the Fourth Estate for the questions, and through you, Honorable Chair, thank the ministers for responding to these questions. We've come to the end of today's post-cabinet press briefing.